What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Miles, and in today's weekly update, I'm going to be running you through exactly what is happening in crypto from a macro perspective and also from a narrative and fundamental perspective to take a look at what potentially the hot trends of the week could be and what is brewing underneath the crypto market. So this is an extension of my series that I've been doing every single Monday to prepare you for the week and make you guys aware of the top narratives in the space as well as the current situation. So hopefully every week by watching these shows on a Monday, you can get a full purview of what's happening in the markets that could better prepare you for the week. And this week we have a pretty busy week ahead of us. On your screen, you can see some of the key dates. For me, it's this GDP data on Thursday that's going to be very important. It's going to show the health of the US economy. And then we also have the PCE inflation data on Friday. As we know, PCE often leads CPI, so that is an extremely important date in order to verify whether inflation is actually coming down. On top of that, we also have 4 Fed speakers this week. So we have Fed Governor Jefferson, Fed Governor Barr again, and then we have Boston Fed President Collins, followed by NY Fed President Williams. So we have a lot of speakers this week from the Fed. It's going to be interesting to see what their narrative is this week after we had, I think, relatively conflicting opinions last week from Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. So I'm very interested to see what they come out and say, because obviously we are in a very macro dominant environment. But I think recently the market just hasn't been responding as severely to macro, because I think since we've been getting so much conflicting opinions in the macro space, the market has decided largely to ignore a lot of it, at least in terms of price action. I'll get into the charts in a second to show you where I think Bitcoin is sitting and also Ethereum as well. So these are the key dates. Touching a little bit further on the GDP date this week, the GDP is obviously on March 30th, so that's in 3 days time from now. That is going to show the strength of the US economy. Now, it's kind of weird because obviously you would want the economy to be super strong in typical circumstances, but I think from a crypto market perspective, there's a slight chance that you want to see a weak economy. And the reason you want to see that is because that will likely put a damper on how aggressive Jerome Powell can actually be in terms of hiking rates. So weak economic data doesn't give him as much of a license to hike rates, whereas really strong economic data means that he has a bit more of a license to hike rates and not to run the risk of causing a recession. So although we never hope for bad data, we want the economy to go strong. Bad data in this case, and it's been like this for the last few months, in terms of how crypto and risk assets respond, is actually probably a good thing. So let's keep our eye on what this data comes in at. The forecast is 2.7%. And last month, we ended up getting 2.7 as well, preceded by 2.9 the month before that. So GDP has been weakening, obviously, as the economy is starting to look a little bit shakier. And we are also in the midst of what is a pretty concerning development in the banking space as well. So in terms of hiking rates, they can't be too aggressive if the GDP comes in weak. And then we obviously have PCE, and this is the leading indicator of CPI. So this will give us an indication as to how hot inflation is in the market, as the PCE price index, or the PCE deflator, is the US indicator of the average increase in prices for all domestic personal consumption. So we do want to see this ticking down to give us an idea that we're seeing disinflation, inflation in the economy coming down. And then CPI, which follows PCE, usually tends to reflect PCE data. So I do expect the market to react to this. This data is in 4 days' time, and I think this is the biggest macro date of the week. So we're going to get this data on Friday. Keep your eye on that. But in the meantime, I want to go through where I think Bitcoin currently sits, because we are at a pretty critical level. So clearly we did break out of this range that we were in for a matter of months. We broke through the diagonal here, broke above range high at 25.2, and then we pushed up all the way to 29K. Now, the important thing to note is that there is extremely strong resistance at the 29 to 30K level. If we go onto the 1 yearly chart, we can see that we did have 2 yearly opens at the 30K level. So it is a very key area of resistance. And that's why I haven't been too gung-ho in terms of opening longs at the moment, because at the end of the day, the risk reward for me isn't quite there into resistance unless we start to see some sort of altcoin rotation. Obviously, the ETH BTC chart isn't suggesting that to be the case. So from a buying Bitcoin, buying altcoin perspective, for me, we are heading into resistance. And in general, I think this is an area where you do have to be careful. Now, if we do get a significant pullback, I do become interested in buying dips around the 25.2 to the 26.5 region. I would love to buy some dips around 25 to 26, considering that would be our next major level of support after we did break above range high. But I'm just going to see how Bitcoin reacts in price. We could see a scenario where we use this current level of support as a springboard to come up and test 29, flip that level, and you are looking at the bullish scenario. Conversely, if you start to break down, show some weakness, we can reject off this level, then you're coming down to test 26.5, and then Bitcoin has a big decision to make there. So I'm really taking it day by day. I'm just monitoring the price action of Bitcoin. I'm taking some shorter term scalp trades on Bitcoin and altcoins off the back of Bitcoin, because generally they've been pretty correlated, and just accepting that this has been a Bitcoin rally. This isn't altcoins time to shine yet. If we look at the ETH BTC chart, ETH BTC is actually breaking down off a very key level. If I go into the daily, you'll see this level more clearly. It's the 0.065 level, and this is the zone that I want ETH BTC to flip to provide the signal to me that altcoins are starting to gather some strength in this market. That would be my indicator to go heavier into altcoins and rotate some of my profits out of Bitcoin. But until we do see a flip of this level, I am not super uber bullish alts, just because the ETH BTC chart's looking weak, the alt BTC pairs are looking weak as well. So it's not altcoin season yet. We haven't quite seen a rotation. It is currently the Bitcoin narrative, the flight to safety, digital gold narrative that's been pumping the market, and that's okay. But we do need to see how the market does progress over the next week or so in terms of how we start to see the correlation between Bitcoin, equities, and altcoins is something, of course, I've got my eye on. But in today's show, I'm going to be getting into some of the narratives that I think can perform strongly if we do see a rotation into alts, and nonetheless, altcoins that, irrespective of Bitcoin, can perform. Now, most alts are going to rely on positive Bitcoin price action, but there are select narratives in this market which only need a little bit of price stability across the general crypto market to perform really, really well. So I'm going to get into a couple of those today because there are a few standouts when it comes to the market. I just want to remind you quickly, make sure to click that subscribe button and hit that post notification bell so you're up to date every single time I upload a video, because I'm going to be doing this series every single week to keep you up to date with the crypto market. So most people that watch my videos actually aren't subscribed, so make sure you click that subscribe button, join the family, and click that bell to stay notified so you don't miss an upload. Apes Prologue did a really good overview of the alpha for the week. I highly recommend following them because you're going to get nice overviews like this every week. So we can see Polygon zkEVM is launching today. That's obviously a big launch. We had zkSync as well launch a couple days ago. Optimism is launching a Bedrock upgrade. Say Networks mainnet's launching soon. By the way, there might be an airdrop for Say, so definitely look to get involved in the mainnet if you did miss the testnet, which I was posting about a few months ago on my Twitter. We have Thana, a Solidly fork on BNB, introducing their concentrated liquidity pools, as well as a bunch of other stuff. We have obviously the Go Curve USD stablecoins that we're looking forward to as decentralized stablecoin iterations that are coming soon. So this is just a good overview for you guys. Largely right now, I think the market's being heavily driven by the ZK narrative, the LSD narrative, which I think are the two hottest stories in the market. As we can see here on the major upcoming events list, we have the Polygon launch today. So for me, I'm having a look at a lot of these tokens, the ZK related tokens. So you've got Matic, Mina, Loopring, Dusk, Mute, the tokens that factor into the ZK space. These are on my watch list. So if I'm taking a long in the market, I want to take a long into strength. I don't want a long weak coins right now. I don't want a long laggards like Nia or AVAX. I don't want to long them. I want to long the strong stuff. And I think this is a really important lesson. If you are anticipating a rotation into alts, make sure on your watch list you are ready and armed with the strongest altcoins. There's no point into getting into weakness, because what typically happens is the strong alts lead the pack, and then we see profits diversify into weaker alts. So you want to be in the strong stuff. Now, what is the strong stuff? For me, it's still two of the narratives that have been really strong this whole year, and that is ZK, so zero knowledge proof type products, and also LSD products. Now, we do have the Shanghai upgrade happening in 2 weeks, so all eyes for me are on FXS, LDO, and Anchor. I'm looking for longs in these coins. I don't know if I'm going to get my my perfect entries, but I think Lido is starting to look pretty good. You start to flip mid-range here at 2.2, and there definitely is a bullish case for Lido to come and test range high at 2.46. So I would want to see a flip of this level and then a push up to the top of the range, and then obviously I would set my stop below if I'm trading Lido. Of course, you could also look at buying at the bottom of the range. There's a pretty strong support for Lido around the $1.98 to $2 region. That could be a decent level to pick up some Lido, but I do think the market is desperate for narratives right now. It's been kind of dry. I think we could see the resurgence of the Chinese narrative, maybe with coins like CFX, AI as well as in the background, but there hasn't been much news there. So I think LSDs and ZK coins are the things to keep your eye on right now. Lido definitely being one of them. And then you've also got Frax, which is an interesting play as well as Anchor. So Frax doesn't look too good, but then again, if you start to see like a significant break of trend on Frax, especially the diagonal, which is starting to form now, that could be an indicator for you to open along. We're just going to need to see how this plays out over the next couple of days. I want to see a bit of strength from Frax. I also have my eye on the ETH BTC chart to see some strength coming in there as well. So those are the narratives that I'm watching for the week. You guys know every single week I keep you updated with the narratives that I am looking at. I think the alpha generally lies in the LSDs and the ZK coins. Kind of boring, I know, because we've talked about them a lot, but I think the reason for that is the market is starved of narratives post the Arbitrum airdrop. It's looking for new trends, and to me, this is where the strength is ahead of Shanghai. Shanghai getting delayed slightly also pushed back the timeline on a lot of these LSD coins. Last week, the big story was obviously the Arbitrum airdrop. I don't think this story's over because we are still seeing the flow-on effects. I'm going to tell you why we're still seeing the flow-on effects, but the Arbitrum airdrop, after a pretty shaky start, having the dashboard not able to actually claim your Arbitrum, ended up being a success in my opinion. So now we have up to 86% of the total Arbitrum that is being claimed, and we have seen what has largely been a successful airdrop. I mean, I know a lot of people have been pretty critical of Arbitrum just because the price launched, got priced pretty close to fair value straight away, and now a lot of people are like, you know, what now? They're kind of twiddling their thumbs hoping for their ecosystem coins to go up. I think you just have to have patience here. Look, it was always going to get pretty aggressively priced in the beginning. Obviously, it has come down, and that is as a result of a lot of people receiving their airdrop, deciding to sell it, and we have seen a lot of buyers step in at the 118 level. So to me, this is pretty fairly valued right now. It's in line with optimism. It comes in around the Matic level in terms of FDV. It's a top 20 protocol by FDV. It's pretty standard for what you would expect, and I think $1.27 is pretty fair for Arbitrum right now. How am I looking at trading this going forward? Well, there's a clear level that I want Arbitrum to break, and that is the 132 zone. Break that zone, and I think you do have scope to push up to the 149 level. I'm not trading high leverage on this. It's either low leverage or spot, just because I am wary of the volatility, given that it is a new token. Been slightly more stable than I expected, to be honest, but I'm still not going to go in with crazy leverage or anything. We did have this break of trend here. We had the fake out above range high. Obviously, these ranges are short-term ranges, so they're not as powerful as like your 25k Bitcoin range, of course, because that had months to develop. But in general, we have seen, you know, a lower high, another lower high starting to form here. You want to wait of a pretty decisive break out of this trend and then a push up to range high before looking at longing, and that top horizontal level is one I've got my eye on. Conversely, if you want to buy at the bottom of the range, I don't think that's the worst thing you could do around the $1.20 level in this zone here. That's been a pretty strong support so far, and then at least you have clear invalidation. So you know if you're getting an entry around $1.20, you're going to have clear invalidation under that level. So if you're looking to buy Arbitrum, there is a few scenarios for you. Obviously, you want to wait for a decisive move nonetheless instead of buying in the middle of the range, or if you're just DCAing, I don't think that's a horrible approach either if you want exposure to the token. The only thing I'm wary of is holding Arbitrum long term, given the implications of the token vesting. There's only 12% of the supply currently on the market. Quite an aggressive vesting schedule if you want to think of it in dilutive terms. So for me as a long-term bet, I'm not too sure, but in the short to medium term, I'm very happy to hold ARB, given the fact that, you know, it's quite a strong narrative. It's been a strong chain, lots of great dApps on the Arbitrum network, and its growth has been undeniable. I mean, look at this transactions chart. Sure, we have seen a dip after the airdrop, but the airdrop was always going to spike transactions. Still doing over 1 million transactions a day, so been very impressive. I've enjoyed my time in the Arbitrum ecosystem. We can see here even Huobi, Justin's son, has been buying some Arbitrum. So I know for a fact there are a lot of whales and liquid VC funds that are pretty actively buying Arbitrum at the bottom of this range here. So I think there is a decent support for ARB, and there's definitely a lot of sideline capital that wants to get into ARB. As well, you know, you've got a lot of people that received an airdrop that want to get out of ARB, so there are balancing factors at play. But in general, I'm relatively bullish short-term in ARB. I think we could see $1.50 to $2 at some point in the future. However, you know, I am aware that if we do break below the $1.20 level, there is further downside. So I'm not going to ape in or anything right now. I'm still holding my airdrop. I'm taking it pretty easy in the ARB ecosystem. Speaking of the ecosystem, I think a lot of people expected the ARB airdrop to cause a lot of the ARB ecosystem tokens to pump. That's not what we saw. We actually saw a lot of them come down in price, and this is something I warned you guys of on the Arbitrum launch Twitter space the day of the Arbitrum airdrop, that, you know, we can see a buy the rumor, sell the news situation for a lot of ARB ecosystem tokens, and that's exactly what we saw. So for the ones that missed Grail, the ones that missed Magic, the ones that, you know, missed Dopex, Radiant, really wanted to ape in pre-Arbitrum, you're going to get some better looks at these tokens. I think tokens that can take advantage of the ARB incentives that they're getting, as well as are getting genuine adoption, and that's reflecting in the amount of fees they're generating. Those are the tokens that I'm looking at. So I think your Gains networks, etc. I do like Magic in the gaming space. It's a decent project. Radiant's been fairly impressive. I do like Dopex. I don't know if the world is ready for options, at least not the crypto world yet, but I do like it as a protocol. You've also got GMX down 16% for the week. You know, a lot of tokens people are aping into that are now starting to come down. So we know that there's big incentives coming to a lot of the Arbitrum protocols. Percentage-wise, slightly less for some of those bigger caps compared to the smaller caps. I wouldn't ape into the small Arbitrum capped coins now, just because some of the hype has started to dissipate post airdrop. But for those really solid protocols, I don't think anything's changed, and I think you will get some opportunities to accumulate these. So just, I guess this is another lesson to be wary of the buy the rumor, sell the news common crypto event cycle that we see happen time and time again. One beneficiary, though, I think that not a lot of people are talking about is actually Synapse Protocol. And the reason why I think it's a beneficiary of the Arbitrum airdrop is because it is still the main bridge on Arbitrum. So it's still the number one bridge. There aren't a plethora of bridging solutions right now. Layer 0 is still coming. We're kind of waiting on a lot of bridges. And right now, the most usable and active product, at least on a lot of ecosystems connecting them together, including Arbitrum, is Synapse. So I think Synapse could be a beneficiary here, as a lot of people want to bridge their Arbitrum profits off the network, and they do earn a percentage revenue off bridges through bridging fees. So Synapse is one that I've got my eye on. It's at, I think, 91 cents right now. One that I might add to my medium to long-term bags. I haven't made a decision here, but on the 180-day chart, we can see it's down significantly off its highs. Might be a decent one to have a look at. Once again, I'd still love to see some strength from ETH BTC to get into alts, but I might have a little bit of a nibble. I need to see how things play out over the next few days. But this is one I've got my eye on, so I recommend doing some more research. The best thing I can do as a creator is giving you good places to look, and I think this is definitely somewhere to look. It is Synapse, because they are getting some money to the Synapse DAO via the Arbitrum airdrop, so they are a beneficiary of the incentives here. So Synapse, I do have my eye on. The other thing I want to mention in relation to ARB before we move on to where capital's rotating to is the power of airdrops. I think what the Arbitrum airdrop did is it really just highlighted how powerful airdrops can be in this market. And I'll leave you with a little bit of advice. If you are, and not financial advice, of course, personal advice for entertainment purposes only. If you are starting out in crypto and you only have a couple $1,000s, maybe you have less than 10,000, 5,000, you know, you're not a whale and you don't have huge money to play with, I think the best risk reward thing that you can do is actually get on chain, get dirty, degen on chain, and participate in airdrop hunting and airdrop farming, because there's not many other industries in the world where you can receive thousands of dollars for free from very little effort. I think airdrop farming in crypto, there's a reason why it's so popular. I know it's kind of cringe to see all these threads all the time, and you might be a bit overwhelmed with the amount of airdrop talk, but I think there's a lot of talk about it for good reason, because there's not many other industries where you can earn thousands of dollars from pretty minimal work, or at least doing work that you enjoy. Like, I don't know about you, but I love degenning on chain. It's fun bridging to new chains, trying out new dApps. It's genuinely fun. It's genuinely exciting. And if you can get paid to do what you like, I mean, that's just a win-win, right? So I think if you don't have a lot of money in crypto and you're starting out with $1,000, instead of trying to build a portfolio and 10x or 100x that portfolio, a lot of the time you're better off just degenning on chain, getting used to using crypto, and then obviously getting into some airdrops and just trying to airdrop farm on chain and using new chains. So one of those chains is clearly zkSync, because they did launch their Era mainnet the day after Arbitrum launched. This was quite funny timing, by the way. It was clearly planned by ZK to launch the day after Arbitrum and try and steal some users away. And this is where I'm seeing on Twitter a lot of people anticipating the next rotation to be into zkSync and out of Arbitrum. And we are seeing that to an extent, given the fact, and I'll move my face a little bit here, that the zkSync transactions and inflows have absolutely been exploding. And if we look at the June dashboard to compare different bridges across Arbitrum and Optimism, we can see zkSync now has more bridge deposits than Optimism, Arbitrum, and Starknet. So the ZK wave is very strong. We're seeing a lot of hot competition in this space. And where there's hot competition, there's incentives, because all of these projects are fighting for a piece of the pie, which is you, the user. And in order to get users, they need to give you a reason to use their chain. And obviously the way they do that is through token incentives like airdrops. So a lot of people now are bridging onto zkSync, expecting ZK to have a big airdrop. It probably will have a big airdrop, and it probably will be bigger than Arbitrum. So it's definitely a network to use. If you haven't used it, just get on the mainnet, have some fun, transact with different dApps. Don't risk any money you're not willing to lose, of course, but just get involved with zkSync, maybe bridge some capital on. I did tell you guys last year on my Twitter to get involved with the testnet. If you haven't already, you may have missed the initial snapshot. However, I still think there may be a secondary snapshot for mainnet, so it's worth maybe getting involved a little bit. You never know. The Arbitrum snapshot happened in February, and everyone said it was done in October. So zkSync could be a very similar thing where people say it's over and it actually isn't over. So it probably pays to pay attention to zkSync and get involved. And look, I've been degenning a little bit into having a look at ZK meme coins and dexes and stuff. Super risky stuff at this stage. A lot of rugs. Not something I'll publicly talk about because I don't want to get you guys involved with anything too dodgy, because a lot of this stuff hasn't been vetted. But having a play around in zkSync can be a super entertaining thing to do, and I've been having a lot of fun on the network. So that is really where Twitter is seeing the next rotation. No, I don't think Arbitrum's dead. I still think there's an amazing community on Arbitrum. The ecosystem's great, although there are the bees in every ecosystem, which go from honeypot to honeypot, and the bees that were just there for the Arbitrum airdrop, they'll leave and they'll go to places like zkSync, and then they'll leave zkSync when Starknet launches, and then they'll eventually head over to Starknet as well. But zkSync, very heavily backed projects, and I always look at VC backing as a prerequisite for tokens that could have an airdrop, because more backing typically means more incentives, and if they are backed, then the backers being key financial stakeholders in the product, they want a return on their investment. So oftentimes the way they get that return is through a token. So strong indication there will be a token, and they have some of the biggest backers in crypto. So zkSync obviously on the radar of a lot of investors, and we can see the addresses, the transactions have been absolutely spiking, and there are strategies I think to get a potential airdrop for zkSync. Airdrop Oasis did a very good thread on this, and this involves bridging into the ZK mainnet, then utilizing some of the dApps like SwapSync, Zigzag, Mute, etc., to maybe depositing some money into the liquidity pools, minting an NFT, basically just getting involved on a regular basis with the ecosystem. That is what I do to put myself in a position to get an airdrop over on zkSync. And in other ZK news, you also, of course, have Polygon zkEVM that's launching today. The Matic price action, despite obviously ZK being a positive announcement, has been quite bad. I think the news of Matic blowing through a couple $100 million did not bode too well with the market. I think this has resulted in a sell-off. If we look at the price action here structurally, we see we made the highs at 155, then we've seen a series of lower highs, and then we saw a massive bounce, and then another lower high as well. So you really don't want to take out this level for Matic, or things can get ugly. Preferably, you want the 106 level to hold, but I am cognizant of the fact that we likely come down at some point into this 91 cent region. And, when we do break down, maybe this is a region that we range out in for a little while. But price action pretty bearish. Doesn't give me too much confidence to max long Matic right now. Long term, probably a different discussion. But in terms of, shorter term trading, I do expect us at some point to come down to the 90 cent region. So just keep your eyes on Matic, not one that I'm longing under my ZK basket. One I've got my eye on. I just want to see how price reacts in this zone. If we start to break above and then, we flip the 120 level again, strong sign that the momentum's back with Matic. Until then, I'm just a little bit wary in terms of price. A last bit of alpha for you guys before I leave is COTI. I like what COTI's doing at the moment. So they have a zkEVM airdrop, which means if you lock your COTI for a certain period, you receive zkEVM in exchange, and as a result, you can get access to an airdrop. So I think this incentivizes people to lock COTI. That is very good for the supply dynamics of the token, meaning more people will stake, and if demand stays the same, then reduced supply indicates that price go up, right? The question is whether demand stays the same. That's the real question behind whether the price will go up or not. So for me, I don't even need to try and answer that question. I'm just looking at the price action. So if we break above 76 or 0.076 for COTI, I think that would be a great sign that we can start to come up and test this key moving average, and then obviously range highs at 0.84. So for me, that's a level I want to see COTI break, but it is pretty good that we did swing off the lows here. You can see, we have had positive price action since making in the low. You just want to take out this high at 8.2, and that is a sign that COTI is on the fly. So good announcement with the airdrop. I do want to see this supply dynamic start to replicate itself on the charts in terms of price action as well. So that is what I've got my eye on. Well, that is all my alpha for today. I gave you a full market update of the dates that you should look at. I went through my Bitcoin scenarios as well as altcoins. We talked about some of the strongest narratives in the market, as well as some stuff related to Arbitrum, zkSync, etc. So pretty jam-packed informational video, but I want to do this every single Monday to prep you guys for the week ahead. So maybe you feel ready and up to date in the crypto market. And hopefully I gave you some ideas for potential trade setups and also ideas for potential narratives as well. That's the goal of content on this channel. So if you did enjoy this style of video and you want to be around for next week's show on Monday, then make sure you click the subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll upload the next time I post a video. Until then, I hope you have a lovely day and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.